process of becoming a better painter, I was looking at what did I do. The paintings that I felt were my most satisfying, or the best thing that I could do for my own personal feeling. I got to looking back and what did I do? And so I noticed that in each of those cases, I had in watercolor, I had developed. I mean, in my sketchbook, I had really taken the time to develop a pencil sketch to a higher degree of completion. And so
on the painting itself, or in advance of the painting? In advance
of the painting. In my original sketch of whatever I was wanting to do, I spent a lot of time. A lot of this goes back to my love of pencil sketching. I love watercolor, and I love everything about watercolor, but I think my true love, my first love, was pencil and sketching. And so the paintings that I felt were most successful are the ones that I spent probably not unlike an oil painter who would take the time to do a study and study it. And so those are the times for me where I develop a sketch and I see the compositional issues, and I see the value patterns and the value structure that I'm looking for. And I just really get to know that scene. So when I paint it, I know it. I have a more intimate level of understanding of the scene. So I thought what I might do is kind of real briefly show some examples of that, and then we'll just do a demo if we can make our camera work.
Oh yeah, we'll make it work. And so you're going to do a watercolor demo?
Yes, sir.
All right, terrific. Well, why don't we get started? Let's go ahead and get into the lesson. And thank you for doing this. I'm going to just make a quick announcement while you flip your camera. Okay. Are you going to show some things first?
I'll show some things after I get the camera set up.
Okay, terrific. And so I'm going to take you off screen for a second, and then you can get that resolved, and I'll be right back. Today is day number 336. Hard to believe we've been at this since this coronavirus craziness began. I'm Eric Rhodes, publisher of Fine Art Connoisseur and Plein Air magazine. Welcome today. We're glad you're here. We are having some fun. So here's what's going to be happening. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you right now. I'm going to take a vacation. You heard right. After 336 days, I need a vacation. My brain is fried. And I'm going to take off work too. I haven't told my team yet, but I'm just going to not work for a whole week or 2 weeks. I don't know how long. I'll come back when I feel like it. And in the meantime, what we're going to do is I'm going to pre-record some openings for this show. And assuming we can pull this off, we're going to take some of the best of from some of the shows over the last 336 days and re-air them. And so hopefully we can edit out some of the things that are no longer relevant, things that may have been discussions for a particular day. Sound like a plan? That's what the plan is. Lori and I are going to climb into the motorhome and take off and head to Florida to see some family. And we have to stay distanced, but we're going to see them, even if we have to see them from across the way. Also, I should mention to you that the winner of my book today is Jennifer Ning from New York. I don't know what city, but from the state of New York. And today the prize is a digital subscription to Plein Air magazine, a 1-year digital subscription. And you should know the digital subscription of the magazine is 20% more content than the print edition. And the print edition is the #1 selling art magazine at Barnes & Noble nationally. We're pretty proud of that. And also at Michael's stores, it may be, we think it's the only actual art magazine in Michael's stores. They just started carrying it a few months ago, so we're happy with that. Make sure you go in there and tell them you want it if you don't find it. If you want to know what we do, if you're tuning in for the first time, go to streamlinepublishing.com and /everything. And that's where you can find out about all the different magazines, events, newsletters, products, and things that we do. All right. So now we have Tim Oliver back, hopefully. Now, Tim, your camera is upside down.
Okay. All right, I couldn't tell. Let me try this.
Okay. Whoa, I'm getting seasick.
Is that better?
Yep. Yep,
right?
it is.
Okay.
All right. Are we having fun yet, guys? All right.
All right.
So you need to move it over a little bit to, let me see. Wait, no. Yeah, move it over to your right a little bit. There you go. Now we can see it. Good. All right.
Is that pretty good?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Okay.
Okay. Tim, you're on.
Well, let me plug this thing in so my battery don't run down.
So I saw something the other day on TikTok, and they took an electrical meter. They showed a kid with a phone up to his ear, and they did the electrical meter, and there was no electricity coming out of him. And then they plugged the phone in and held it up to his ear, and the electricity was coming out of him. So the lesson they said is, if your phone is plugged in, don't hold it up to your ear.
Yeah, exactly. So I apologize. I'm technologically challenged out here, but if it looks good there, I think we can make that work. Can you see my palette a little bit? Everybody always likes to see the palette.
Well, if you would move your palette over where the color example is, yeah. In other words, you may have to cover that up.
That's fine. That's fine. I'll move it over. I can't move it very far, but I'll move it a little bit here.
All right.
Okay. All right. Well, first of all, Eric, I got to say, I'm glad you're taking a vacation. You need one, and we really appreciate what you've done for the community. But I kind of got tickled. I was watching Michael Mentler yesterday, and you described him as the Da Vinci of our time. And so I think it's really interesting that we go from that to me on the next day, and I could best probably be described as a baboon with a brush and a bad attitude. So it's not we're not going to. This is not Da Vinci style, but it's me. So
every artist matters. Every artist has something to offer. And you wouldn't be on this show if you weren't any good.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. I'm terribly nervous about this whole situation. But
anyway. All right. Time to get over it and move on.
All right. We're moving. What I might do, and tell me if you can see this, because I can't see, but
hold the papers up over the drawing. There you go.
Okay. I'll do it like that. So I real quickly, and I don't want to do very much of this because I want to get to painting, but I just went back through and I made some copies out of my sketchbook and of some of the images that I love to sketch. This is and I'll just go through these pretty fast, showing you the sketch and showing you the resulting painting. So you can see that sketch is much more than a thumbnail. It's more developed, but it teaches me a lot in the process. So there's the painting that came out of that, and it's not a very good copy. It's just a Xerox copy of the painting. But hopefully you can see that the preparatory work that I've done has paid off to a certain degree.
So let me ask you a question. The sketch that you did you do that sketch on your watercolor paper first? No,
that's in my sketchbook.
Okay, and then you did a sketch again on the watercolor paper.
Exactly. Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes,
and what did you sketch with?
I normally sketch with a fairly soft pencil, like a 2B or a HB, sometimes usually a softer lead.
And that's the same on the watercolor paper as well.
Yes, sir. Yes,
okay.
Sir. Yeah. Keep it simple.
You're very polite. You must be from Texas.
Well, I can't help. Yeah, that's born and raised. West Texas, and we don't really consider y'all part of Texas down there.
Yeah, well, we kind of feel the same way about you guys.
Okay, so I'm going to move kind of quick here. So this is a little bit different. This is more of a sketch in my sketchbook of that scene using watercolor. I don't know why I threw that one in. That's not pencil, but it's another way of looking at values in that case. the resulting painting was that. So anyway, moving right along. This is a sketch. This is a fairly quick sketch for me, but it was a simple scene. The resulting painting.
I put them side by side so we can see. All right.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay. This is one a little bit different. I've been experimenting using charcoal as my sketch medium, and this was a sketch done entirely in charcoal, and then the painting, actually in this case, I worked out some things in this charcoal sketch and then painted watercolor right on top of it. So
you have a question from the audience, which was, why did you use the grid? You had a grid on another painting.
I used that grid just on this one.
Yeah.
That was just my way of reminding myself that the whole rule of thirds thing, my focal point being down here in this lower quadrant.
Will you explain the rule of thirds, because some people might not know that?
Well, the rule of thirds is kind of a tried and true compositional theory that I don't know who came up with it, or if it's just kind of a natural thing that if you'll divide your paper into thirds, and if you can generally locate your point of interest or your focal point at one of those intersections of that grid, then your likelihood that your composition is going to be visually correct is higher.
That's right. And when we were all in elementary school, they taught us to put everything in the dead center, and that's the one place that you typically want to avoid. Now, all rules are meant to be broken.
Exactly. And I see some incredible work that violates the rule of thirds all over the place. Joseph Zabukovich's work, he'll a lot of times have his horizon line smack in the middle, which seems like a huge violation, but who's going to argue with Joseph's work? It's incredible, and it works. So if you know the rules, you can break them. I can't break them very well because I don't know them that well. So this is a little scene, pretty quick little sketch, not highly developed, but probably more developed than a thumbnail might be, or something like that. And then the resulting painting from that. I don't want to get bogged down into talking, but so I want to move on a little quicker. But that's just a little tractor painting I did a few years ago. I confess and I admit that I love to sketch, and so part of the passion in painting for me is the sketching. And so there are artists who would disagree with that theory, I'm sure, and they would not have as highly a developed sketch as I like to do, and do 10 times better painting than me. So I'm not suggesting that this is the right way to do it. It just works for me.
Somebody asked if you sell your sketches. I think you have them in a sketchbook. Is that right?
I do. And matter of fact, it's an interesting story. Ian Stewart, Ian. Ian years ago told me that he never removes a page from his sketchbook. It's a very personal thing for him. And I feel the same way. It's kind of a diary. It's kind of a collection of things that someday my kids will probably use for starting their fireplace. But for me, I don't ever sell a sketch. I did one time, and it was actually this sketch right here. I tore it out. A friend of mine really wanted it. It had a real personal connection for him, and I've regretted it ever since. So I don't.
If somebody wanted to commission a sketch, I'm sure you would do that.
Yes, sir. Okay. I would. But I wouldn't sketch it in my sketchbook. This is another one, just to kind of give you an idea of where it starts and where it hopefully finishes. I have a lot of people that will make a comment. I don't know what this says about my painting ability, but they'll say they like the sketch better than the painting. So, I don't know what that says about me as a painter, but this is another example real quickly of the sketch versus the painting. And hearing no comments, I'll move on a little quicker. Another example.
Beautiful. I'm sorry, I didn't comment because I had my mic muted.
No, that's fine. No, that's fine. I'm just until somebody says slow down, I'm going to go a little faster, so we'll have time to paint. But this is one of my favorite paintings that I've done, and I sketched it 2 or 3 times. I think I used it in a workshop to kind of help explain the value structure, you know, and people know this, and if you don't know this, is we're always, all artists are always looking for a good value range from 0, which would be the widest, the wide of the paper for us watercolorists, to the darkest darks, you know. So I've got I don't usually have 5 values, but in this particular deal, I was like, I've got five distinct values, and hopefully it works. And I think it did in the final painting. This is a little more like a no tan, but it's using some markers and just to work out those values and the composition. So I've always liked that painting. I don't know why. That's a little gas station down at Midway, Texas.
Yeah, we got one around here like that. I like to paint.
Yeah, they're always good. This is the one that painting that I call it West Texas Skyscraper. So every town on the Great Plains of this country has got a grain elevator. I just love that painting, and fairly well developed sketch. And real quickly, this is one I did. It's Charles Goodnight's house up in Goodnight, Texas. That pen and ink sketch there, you know, I picked that one because it was a pen and ink. And I've been working on a little series of historic still lifes, and so that was a sketch I did one evening, and I've done 2 or 3. I haven't done a final painting of this yet, but I've done 2 or 3 kind of studies of it. But you can see where the whole idea is I learned so much from a sketch.
Yeah.
That I put that I hopefully transfer into the final painting. So
cool.
Okay.
All right.
Hopefully that was helpful. I'll set that aside, and I'll show you in my sketchbook. This is a little barbecue joint down the road from me. It's less than a mile from my house, and every time I drive by there, I'm intrigued by the place. It's sort of a ramshackle kind of a place, and fairly popular. Been there for years. He does all his cooking out in the van, and then he's got a couple of tables on the inside, and it feels like the whole place is going to fall down when you go in there. But I was out one day and I sketched that view of it, and I thought, in preparation for today, I thought that'd be a good one to paint.
Well, you know, you're preserving Americana. All that stuff is eventually going to fall down.
It is. And, you know, for me, my most successful paintings are of scenes and of places that there, for whatever reason, there's a connection. I feel a connection there, and I feel a spark of something. You could set me out in the Adirondack Mountains like you do, and the most beautiful scene there, or in the Rocky Mountains. And if I don't have some kind of a connection or some kind of a feeling, I know my painting's not going to be good. And so it's those places that I drive by that I have a connection to, or those.
Well, everybody has something that turns them on. And I remember driving with a buddy. We were looking for a place to paint. And every place he wanted to paint, I didn't want to paint, and vice versa. And I remember Ken Oster, we were out painting in this really, really beautiful area in this old farm. And he decided to paint an old Cadillac sitting in the garage rather than painting the beautiful vistas. So everybody's got their own thing. There's not a right or wrong.
Yeah, well, you're exactly right. And somebody said one time about my work, they said, you, and I don't know if they intended it as a compliment or not, but they said, you seem to paint the stuff the rest of us just drive by. And I had to agree with that. And I kind of like that, because I'm always looking for those things that I kind of have a connection to. It doesn't always translate into good sales, but it's at the end of the day, I don't do this for sales. I do this because I just enjoy it, the whole process, and it's deeply fulfilling for me. So you can see and interrupt, Eric, anytime you want to. This won't hurt my feelings.
How about now?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
Yeah. Would you mind just being quiet for a minute?
Yeah, I got an email this week. They said, stop interrupting the artist by saying where everybody's coming from. So I'm going to stop.
No, don't stop. It's good. It's all good. There's probably not anybody watching anyway. If they did, they're already left. Anyway.
Yeah, there's only one person watching.
Okay, good. That's good. Just me and you, Eric and Allie. So that's where we're going with this. And I don't know that I'll have time to fully finish this, but we'll get a good start. So here we go.
All right.
As you can see, I've not transferred, I've redrawn. I like to draw so much that I very seldom will project anything or trace anything. I like to draw. And I decided a long time ago, if I'm going to learn how to draw, I need to draw. And so that's just me. That's just a personal thing. But I would encourage that person that's listening, if you don't feel comfortable with your drawing, the only way to get over that is to draw. And so I know a lot of your guests will concur with that. I hear that all the time, but it is true. So here's the sketch. And you can see what I learned from this sketch is it's kind of a horizontal composition and very linear. There's some really interesting shapes here. To me, they're interesting. This shape, all these shapes, but by themselves, they're just shapes. And the tree forms a really good shape there. But what I found is that I need that connection. If you'll see the darks that connect. So everything is connected, even up into the tree. So we've got a good, strong connection horizontally that pulls the composition together.
I think that's worth noting, because connecting your darks is really a critical thing if you can do it.
It really is. I've learned that over the years, but when you can, and there's times where I will make a connection that doesn't exist in the scene, but it needs to be in the painting. So, and then there's other times where I screw the whole thing up and don't do it, and it's subpar painting. But anyway, this is the main thing I learned in this sketch, was that I need to connect these shapes and these darks, and in order to tie this kind of long linear. I learned from Charlie Hunter a long time ago. He paints a lot of landscape formats, long horizontal formats, and I asked him about that, and he said, "Well, that's the way your eye works. I mean, that's what we see, and we see in that fashion." And I think there's some real wisdom in that. I've got this drawn out in more of a rectangular format. I could easily crop this thing along about here, and it might be that that's the way to go when we get going. But let me go ahead and get going, if that's all right with everybody. The other thing that I want to say real quick is I'm going to paint this sort of in a complementary color using blue and orange. And I did that I don't always do that, but I like to do that, because look at all the range of colors and values that I can get using only two colors. So while I'm only using orange and blue, French ultramarine blue, Daniel Smith, and I'm using transparent Pyrrole orange by Core, those two colors, there's a infinite number values and chromas that I can come up with out of that. So
you made all those colors from the mixture of those two colors.
of those two colors. All of that.
And do you go through this this exercise before you do a painting typically? To, you know, what is going to be your dominant colors and colors used?
I do usually, or sometimes I just know where I'm going with it because I've done it enough. But I'll do these kind of things a lot, just to sort of see what are the possibilities here, you know, and I enjoy doing that because you take every pair of complementary colors and you're talking about a whole different world. Look at what Tom Schaller does with his complementary colors. You know, it's just incredible. I've learned a lot from him. But anyway, that's what I'm planning on doing. So I'm gonna start with an orange kind of a sky. We've had a good out here in Lubbock. We have good dust storms every once in a while, and so we get these orange dust filled skies, and so they're kind of fun to paint. So what I'm going to do is just lay in a little bit of water here just to kind of pre-wet that. What I want to try to
know what kind of paper you're painting on and what kind of brush you're using.
This is Saunders Waterford. It's my favorite paper, 140-pound cold press. And I'm using, here are the brushes that I plan to use. I'll usually start with a mop. These are all Escoda brushes because Joseph says that I'm supposed to. And if I use the same brushes that Joseph uses, I can maybe paint like him.
Well, it's kind of like if you use the same golf clubs that Tiger uses.
Exactly. Same
I understand
principle.
his are not going to be used for a while.
Same principle.
Too soon?
Yeah, too soon. So I'll start with a mop, and then I'll go to a number, what is that, 12 pointed round, and then I'll kind of work myself down. I usually finish up some detail stuff with a rigger from Cheap Joe, and so I have a hard time painting and talking at the same time. But let me go. So I'm going to just start with a little orange sky, and I'm painting on about a 30-degree angle. So I'm going to let this kind of work its way down. My thinking is that I'm going to leave the brightness of the sky up in this corner over here, because assuming that the sun is coming sort of this way, my shadows are all going to be going that way. So I'm going to leave the sky a little brighter over here, and then I'm just going to tease this bead down the page, and I have to always remind myself to wait on it and let it do its thing. You can see that bead forming right there. Always have to be very conscious of how much water is in your brush at any time, or you'll get overloaded. But I'm going to tease this on down and let it just sort of do its thing.
I've been playing with watercolor lately after Watercolor Live, and really enjoying it.
Yeah, that's great. I knew you were, and that's fantastic, Eric.
I just, somebody just sent me a kit of Russian watercolors that was very generous. Somebody else just sent me a whiskey painter's kit. About the whiskey painters.
Yeah.
And gosh, I just keep getting all these good things. It's really sweet. Now, if I could only paint.
Well, yeah, it's you know how to fix that. You already know that. It's just a matter of putting in the time, isn't it? So what I'm going to do is hopefully at this point I'm going to just be painting with water, and I'm going to bring this on down. I'm going to probably switch to my pointed round so I can I'm going to cut around some stuff as I come down with this bead. This first wash is always really important to me because it kind of sets the mood of the painting. And actually I need to, and then I'll just bring this down. I'm just painting with water, kind of tinted water at this point. I could add a little bit of more color in there if I wanted to, but
Have you ever painted with coffee?
Uh, no, not really. Not really. I mean, I've heard of guys that doing that, and I've
I think we
actually
could start a whole trend. We could start the coffee painters and only paint with coffee.
Well, yeah. I mean,
And then you could say, well, this one was done with a latte, and this one was, you know, you can different kinds of coffee.
this is a cappuccino here.
I'm not sure the milk would do really well.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure either. I've
What is
accidentally
the
dipped
color you're calling orange?
Sir,
Tell us the orange color that's your base color.
it's made by Core, QOR is the brand. My friend Spencer Meager turned me on to this color down in Texas, San Angelo at Plein Air, Texas this year. He used it, and I really like it. It's transparent, pure all orange.
So you're also a plein air painter.
Yes, sir.
I love the fact that you call me sir. It's very polite.
Oh, well,
That's the way they raise them in Texas.
well, that's the way I was raised anyhow.
Yeah, me too.
So I'm gonna just that bead is sort of just work its way down, and I'm gonna almost forgot about this one over here. I'm gonna bring it right down to the horizon line for now. A lot of times I'll paint right through the horizon, but I don't want to do that because then I need to let it dry. So that is done. Now I can come back later at the end if I want to and do a little glazing to if I need to change some things up there. But for all intents and purposes, that sky wash is done. Now what I'll do is since I'm cut in here and all around these structures and kind of terminated that wash, I can do a little bit of tidying up here, and so I don't get some stray stuff happening. But and then I can pick up some of that extra water on a thirsty brush like that, and I'm good to go. And what I think I'll do now is I'm kind of going on the fly here, but what I'll do is do I would normally kind of turn the, let me get my other brush. I would turn this upside down to do this other wash. So see if I can do an upside down wash. But I can't, I don't want to turn it around. I got everything set here. So I'm going to try to do an upside down wash. I'm going to put my color in here down at the bottom, and then just kind of work it up. I don't really want any strong oranges up here, but I do want to tone the foreground. All of this will get painted over, so it's not real critical how I paint it. I just wanted to get some foreground in there, just because while that upper stuff is kind of drying.
I want to remind you guys that it's nice when you say where you're from, make a comment, you can win a prize.
I'm from Lubbock, Texas. Well, you weren't talking to me.
I was talking to everybody. Somebody asked what angle you're painting on. You said 30 degrees. Is that right?
About 30 degrees, yes, sir. I think some of my Rattlesnake Gang guys are online, and they promised me they wouldn't heckle me, so I guess they're not heckling very hard.
Well, I encourage them to start right now. Tell us about the Rattlesnake Gang. I know Richie is part of that group. Yeah.
Richard Sneary and I, about 6 or 7 years ago, we went, the OPS, Outdoor Painter Society, was having a paint out down in Big Bend. And so we decided, it was right after Plein Air, Texas, and we decided, well, let's go. And so we went. We didn't ever run into any of the OPS people, but we had a great time painting together down there. And so the next year, Greg Summers joined us, and Lon Brower joined us, and so that was kind of the core. And then we've added a couple of 3 people that were interested since then. So we were up to 8 people now. And
but you don't all live in the same places. I mean, Lon lives back east, doesn't he?
Yeah, Lon lives in right outside St. Louis, in the Illinois side of.
And Greg is in Kansas.
Greg's in Kansas City, and Jeff Williams. Forgot to mention Jeff. Jeff's in Stillwater, and Sneery's in Kansas City, and then Richie's in South Texas, down by Victoria. And Margie Hildreth, she's in San Antonio, and then Allison Minky was going to join us this year, but got her flights all canceled and everything. So, and she's back in Maryland. And
Allison's getting married.
Yes, she is. I heard that.
It's going to break a lot of hearts.
yeah, that's right. So anyway, we just kind of got started, and we decided to go back every year. We just have such a good esprit de corps, and we enjoy painting together and being together, and it's a lot of fun. This year it was only 4 of us made it. Everybody kind of got weathered out.
And this was during the big storm in Texas?
It was.
And you went to Big Bend?
Yeah, it was kind of like Ted Cruz. We skipped out of town. It wasn't. The weather was. Somebody had said, "Did you have any weather down there?" And we tell them, yes, we had weather. We had every kind of weather. We had snow, we had rain, we had wind, we had sun, we had it all. But it was nothing like it was here. So,
oh man, yeah, it was terrible here.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I'm looking out the window. We have the people from Serve Pro here now. They're going to try and fix our roof, and we'd taken drywall down yesterday, took carpet up. It's a big mess.
Well, man, I hated to hear that. I heard you had some pipe problems. So what I'm going to do now, I think I'm dry enough up here that a lot of times I'll just go in with a real neutral. So my neutral right now is between those 2 colors, kind of halfway between. If you can see that, it's sort of a gray. I could blue that up, or I could orange it up a little bit, whatever I want to do. But I'll just take that kind of a bluish neutral and sort of, I do this for myself just because I have a very low IQ, and so I get myself mixed up every once in a while. So I'm only looking at my sketch here, and so I know that I've got some shadow things here and there, and so I'll probably need to dilute that a little bit more. But I'll go ahead and identify some of those darks right now, and they'll get darker. But I'll go ahead and lay those darks in right now, so I don't get lost. It just kind of gives me a little bit of a roadmap as to where I'm going. Probably got that a little bit too dark.
Lon Brower is watching.
Hey, Lon. Lon is that guy. He's amazing.
Yeah, Lon is incredible. I just met him up at the Adirondacks, and everybody was blown away by his work.
Yeah, he's talk about a guy that can find a painting out of just about anything. He paints fast, and I'm fiddling around with one painting, and he's already done 4, and so just an amazing guy. So I think what I'll do now is I'm going to wait on this. Well, I might go ahead and just do it, just lay it in here. I've got a little. You start to get a little bit of. I'll give you a little bit of teaser as to what this connecting dark is how it's going to end up. I apologize for my shaky hand. I'm still nervous about this whole deal.
Well, you should be, because you've got a big audience from around the world, And by the end of the day, you'll have 10, 15,000 people watching, and some days even more.
Well,
I've been flashing names on the screen. People, here's somebody from Zimbabwe. So I'm not speaking about them, though. I don't want to get in trouble.
Well, I appreciate you telling me that, because now I'm even more nervous than I was before.
Well, you know, that's the only way we grow, is if we get nervous and we push through our fears.
You know, one of the things that I determined, I came back to watercolor. I'm a landscape architect by training and by profession. I'm still a practicing landscape architect, and so I did a lot. I did very little. I got really frustrated with watercolor back in college, and put it away for about 30 years. When I came back to it, I told myself that whatever opportunity came along, I would seize it, no matter if I felt like I was ready or not. And so that theory is what landed me as one of your demo artists at Tucson, at the Plein Air Convention in Tucson, which I totally laid a goose egg at in that demo.
You did not lay a goose egg.
Oh yeah, I think I did. But anyway, that idea that I'm going to seize every moment, I think that's a valuable way to look at things.
Well, I look back on my life and I realize how many great opportunities I passed up because I was insecure.
Exactly.
I mean, I was invited over to the Bee Gees' house to hang out with them one night after a wedding I photographed, and I turned it down because I didn't feel worthy.
Yeah.
Insane. I got invited to go shopping with Red Skelton, the great comedian. He asked me I was at a press conference and I told him I was from Indiana. He said, "Will you take me shopping?" And I said, "No." He wanted to get his wife a birthday present. I said, "No," I couldn't believe it.
Well, yeah, we miss a lot of things because of, and I think all artists have a little bit of the, poser syndrome. If they really knew me, they'd know they wouldn't like me, or I think feelings of inadequacy, and so I have my share of that. But I just determined that whatever it was, I was just going to do it, and it's been a tremendous way of learning. Nothing teaches you more than doing something that in real truth you're not ready for.
Yeah, well, nobody is ever ready. Everybody thinks that people who are big successes are ready, but they're the same thing. They're nervous. They just hold their breath and go for it.
Yeah, exactly.
So we got about 10 minutes left, Tim.
Okay, so there's no way I'm going to finish this, and I apologize. I've been working kind of slow, but maybe I'll finish when I finish it. Maybe I'll post it somewhere. I'll post it on my Facebook so people can see it. But my next step would be to start bringing this tree down. So I decided to paint this tree with some foliage. It's a half dead tree, but it's wintertime. It has no foliage, but I decided I was going to paint it with some foliage, but being sort of half dead. So I'll have this tree in here, which is going to form this big shape up here. It's going to connect the darks. It's going to get darker as it goes down, and it's going to connect into here, and all these darks I think will get darker. I know they'll get darker, maybe not the shadows. I'm kind of liking the way those are looking, but the darks will get darker, and these darks up in here will all tie together. So tree wash, it's really it's 90% done. I just need to finish it now, but we're not going to have enough time to do that, but I can keep going if you just cut me off whenever, if we got 10 minutes. But
oh yeah, I'll cut you off. Don't worry. I cut everybody off.
Okay, you're used to that. Well, all right, then I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm gonna just start on this tree up here, and I'm gonna start, since my light source is sort of up here. I'll start with a brighter dose of that orange up there. And I like to kind of articulate the edges of the canopy a little bit. And this is just going to be another graded wash coming down down the page. And it's going to get, I'll start introducing a little bit of my blue into it as I come down.
That QOR paint, Core QOR, is great. Very vibrant. They were a sponsor of Watercolor Live. Good stuff. They sent out samples.
Yeah,
to our attendees.
Yeah, it's a really strong medicine. Their paints are the pigments are really very, very strong.
It's the same people who does gold and acrylics and also Williamsburg oils. Yeah. All good products.
I tell you what, never before, I don't think in history have we had the kind of materials that are available to the artist these days. Talk about my college experience with my watercolor. We used to have a little variety store. I think there were in other places in the country too, but around here called TG&Y. I don't know. It's kind of like a dime store kind of a place. Well, I got all excited about watercolor, and I went left campus at Texas Tech where I went to school, and went over to TG&Y and found the cheapest plastic watercolor set they had, and bought it, took it home. I can't talk and paint at the same time. Took it home and pulled out my best typing paper that I had, and just totally made a mess, and it was terrible. It was an awful experience. And I folded that thing up, put it in my box, and literally didn't touch it again until 30 years later. But I tell that story a lot to say, hey, get some good materials to start off with, and get some good, the best you can afford and best you can justify, as far as paper and pigments and all that. And I'm sure that's true in oil or acrylic or any medium, but I know it's true with regard to watercolor.
Well, it's absolutely true. What tends to happen is we go for student grade paints. We don't know they're student grade when we start out. They just are cheaper. But then you have to struggle to get the color out of them because they have a lot of filler and not as much pigment. And if you go for something good from the beginning, you pay more, but it tends to last longer because it has more pigment strength.
Well, exactly. And if you'll, particularly with watercolor, the paper is so important, in getting the right paper. See, this is still damp up here, so I can drop some stuff in there and let the watercolor gods handle that part of the painting for me. And as I come down here, I'm trying to get stronger with these colors.
Somebody wants to know who makes your enamel palette.
That's a Craig Young palette. Okay. Craig Young, he builds them. He's in England, and I had to wait about a year to get that. I rusted out a bunch of palettes, and then I treated myself when I got signature membership in the National Watercolor Society. I was so proud of myself. I decided it was time to invest in a really good palette, and I use it all the time. That's what I use. Plein air or in the studio, it doesn't matter. That's what I use. Got another one over here on the side that I use occasionally, but this is my go-to. So what I'll do is as this tree kind of terminates, I'm going to start pulling some of these limbs down in here. I have a lot of pressure because I'm a landscape architect. I have to draw good trees,
Yeah, well, you're pretty good at it, I'd say.
Well,
Is there a key? Is there a key to trees?
Everybody does trees a little bit differently, and so I don't know that there's one key. For me, it's about the form, it's about the shape, and it's about it's just got to feel right, and it's generally going to be lighter at the top where it's getting the sun. It's going to be it's got to feel like it's not a one dimensional, and I'm not sure how well this one's going to work out, but I'm not a very good demo artist because I like to stop and kind of look at things every once in a while.
All right, I'm going to just stop you right there because I've been noticing your self-talk is a little bit negative, and we're going to have to correct that.
Okay.
You're a very good demo artist. You're doing a terrific job.
I'll finish it.
You guys give him thumbs up and applause, and also share this with other people so that they can see it.
All right. Thanks, Eric.
I was with Michael Rigger, and he came to my house to photograph some sailboats at the lake, and he looked at my paintings, and I kept making excuses for my paintings. And he, before he left, he got in the car and then he stepped out. He says, "I need to tell you something." I said, "What's that?" He said, "Your negative self-talk is getting in your way." He said, "Your paintings are beautiful. Everybody goes through different growth stages. Stop being negative. It's going to hurt you."
Yeah.
And so I stopped from that point. I needed somebody to tell me.
Well, that's a good point. You're right about that. You said you were going to stop me from my negative talk. I thought you meant you were going to stop me from painting.
I will, but not yet.
Okay.
There's deadly silence. Everybody's just totally watching this. It's so cool.
Well, I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing here.
There you go with the negative self-talk again.
No, that's I get this. Yeah.
All right. You're never going to come back. You're going to say, "Eric was critical."
That guy.
All right. So since we're running low on time now, what would your process be next after the tree? Where would you go?
Well, after that tree, what I would do is I would do a little more work to this tree. I'm not quite done with it, but I need to think about it a minute. But the next step would be to there's going to be a lot of white left, so some of this van and this awning, I'll probably put a little bit of a because it is kind of shadowed, but I would finish off with these background trees. I've got a lot of calligraphy to do there. And
all right, really, I've got an idea. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
That's fine.
I have a little bit of time because I don't have my next meeting till 12:30. So I will give you 10 more minutes if you want it.
Okay. Yeah. I'm back to I met real quick while I was doing that. I made a copy in my sketchbook so I can let people can see kind of where we're going. I should have done that from the beginning, and I apologize, but that's kind of where we're going with this. That's the only reference that I'm referencing right now. I don't have anything else, so photos, as we've talked people have talked a lot about photos in the past and how you can get trapped with some things, painting from photographs. I just made it early on. I just made it a practice. I'll have a photograph a lot of times for some information that I might have need to look at, but I don't paint from a photograph. I just decided I'm going to paint from my own sketches, and that's what I'm going to do. So that's what I do. So while I was away, I mixed up a little bit. I did cheat a little bit, Eric, but I've mixed up a little bit of more darks here, and that's going to be kind of my darkest. Can y'all see that palette? But that's kind of that's kind of my darkest dark right there. I can get just almost black there with that. But I guess at this point, I did kind of tone that van just a little bit, and I don't want it to be all stark white. That'll be some white. I'm going to do the same thing with this awning here coming through, and just kind of tone it a little bit, and we'll see. I can always, with watercolor, if you start light, you can always go light, darker on top of light. And
I like the fact that you just took the paper towel and just blotted that for a second.
Yeah, you can do that kind of thing. Move it around, do whatever you want to do. But so I think what I'll do is work on this tree a little bit while in our remaining time. So I'm down to my Cheap Joe's Happy Strokes rigger brush. I go through these things. I buy them by the dozen. They don't last very long, but they only cost about 99 cents. And they make a beautiful line. So I can make a kind of a thick line. I can make a thin line. I can make the whole purpose of a rigger is to get a line small enough to do a rigging on a ship, So I'm gonna show some dead limbs coming out of this side of the tree, and they're just kind of random strokes.
I love your calligraphy.
Well, I enjoy it, and I do a lot of it. So I don't know how successful it is, but I always operate. You'll hear a lot of artists talk about the need to simplify. My mantra has always been complicate. If a little bit works, a lot works better. So.
It's not over. It's not done till it's overdone.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a big bugaboo of mine. See that smear right there? See that? I guess I got my hand into the wet stuff there, but see that stuff at the end of the day just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It just doesn't matter at all. There's going to be a lot of. What you was asking me about trees earlier. Trees don't all grow in a plane. So as a landscape architect, we kind of drew these trees that, they're real pretty trees, but trees have form. And so limbs go this way and they go back this way and they go that way and they come towards you, so they're not all on one plane. Best way to say that, I guess. But anyway, I'll fiddle with that old tree until it's just overcooked.
Fiddle it.
But is that sort of kind of looking like an old scraggy tree?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So it's really at this point we're about putting in the darks, and this is where I really get jazzed up. I love the darks. So I'll bring that tree and that tree. I got a couple. I flat forgot about. There's a whole nother tree behind there, and I forgot about him. I should have laid that in earlier.
So if you just tuned in, we're just kind of staying a little longer than normal because we're giving him a chance to do a little bit more on that back tree.
Let me do this while in a little bit of limited time left. I'm going to throw in some things that'll sort of start to make this give you an idea what the final thing is going to look like. I'll put in some of these my darkest darks.
I'll tell you, if I'd have watched you paint watercolor 30 years ago, I'd have been a watercolorist.
It's never too late, Derek. You know that better than anybody.
Yep, that's right.
My fellow rattlesnake gangers, they make fun of me all the time that if it's not finished until there's a highline wire going through it, you know. But so
What do you use? Use that rigger for a highline wire?
I do. I'll go ahead while we got everybody. I usually wait till the very last because it's sort of the fun last thing. But I practice. People say, well, how do you make that line go? Now, I'll probably screw it up right now, but I practice. I mean, and it's a good practice to get your rigger out and say, I'm going to go from this point to that point, and decide that's what I'm going to do in one stroke. I'm going to go from there, and I'm going to stop there. I'm going to go from there. I'm going to stop there. Instead of nothing's worse than a line that does that, you know, just kind of starts and stops and sketches along. I learned this in architecture school. It's just start, stop, one motion. So, and you got to get the consistency of the paint right. But I'll go ahead and put these in, although it's a little bit early, but just for fun. So I'm going to start there and I'm going to stop out there somewhere. So I'm going to go just like that. This one here is going to start over here and it's going to end there, hopefully. And I'm going to drag my hand through wet paint by doing it, but I didn't have enough paint in my brush, but that's okay. The worst thing you can do is go back and try to fix one. So I'll just do better the next time.
Well, it reads well. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it.
So again, with the darks.
Somebody said that Nancy West says, I wonder if the trusty old pizza cutter would work with watercolor. She uses it all the time with oil. I've never heard of that trick.
I haven't either.
I'm gonna have a lot of sliced up paper.
Charlie Hunter is single-handedly made the window squeegee the tool, the most desired tool in the art world.
Yeah, all of a sudden the squeegee company is like, where are we getting all this business?
He actually had the squeegee company representative on his show here a while back, and that was fun.
Charlie's doing watercolor now.
Yeah, I hate to hear that knucklehead. He'll show in about a month he'll be showing the rest of us up.
Yeah, and then you won't be able to make a living.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you could probably have a talk with him. Send your goons out.
Yeah. That's
it's nothing quite so intimidating as West Texas goons.
I'm fresh out of goons. I need to get some goons.
They don't carry guns where he's from.
That's right. That's right. The rest of this is just kind of calligraphy. Just finishing. I call it junk. If you look on my website, I describe my work as sloppy representationalism. So it looks like something, but it's really sloppily done. But at this point, it's starting to feel finished. I messed up. I mean, I'm just going to go until you just cut me off. So what I need to do, and I forgot to do earlier, I'm going to re-wet. This is a little technique that some people might be interested in. With just clear water, I can re-wet an area. I totally forgot about this. I'm going to re-wet this area all along here, down into there. as probably a lot of people know, West Texas is just flat as a pancake. I mean, we don't have any we got long horizons, put it that way. I just re-wet that, and I'm going to drop a little bit of it's too wet.
Oh, look at that. Look at that.
There's some stuff going on in the distance there that I want to make sure that we have something going on in the distance.
Now, Tim, I want to tell everybody something. I saw techniques on Watercolor Live that I had never seen used before. And
Yeah.
I've started applying those techniques to oil painting, and it's working. A trick like that would work really well.
Well, I didn't do it very well because I got it a little bit too wet. But anyway, you get the idea.
Works for me.
Little dry brush. I didn't talk about dry brush, but a little bit of toned paint there and a little dry brush gives you the feeling like there's something going on back there. Don't know what it is and don't really care.
All right. Diane says there's a song called Miles and Miles of Texas.
Miles and Miles of Texas. See, I screwed up there and I put that light pole in there down into the wet paint and it fuzzed all out right there. But you know what? You don't worry about those. I don't worry about those kinds of things. It is what it is. And it all comes together in the end most of the time. Now,
what are you going to do with that truck? Since that's kind of your focal point, what happens to it?
Not much else happens to it. Well, I'll say that I've got a little bit of a line right here that I'll put in. It's got a little more definition. This is a mirror. My hands are kind of shaky. It's got a little thing here, maybe a deal there. But what's gonna happen to that is it's gonna get this dark shadow that goes up. See that? It's going to get this dark shadow that gets all up into here and up in their business from there and then ties into here and all up into here. So I got another dark shadow that's going to kind of fade out into this other preliminary wash that I put down here. So there's some darks that's going to happen to tie all this. And that'll be the last thing I do to tie everything together. And then basically, I'm gonna have a little shadow cast, kind of a lemmy shadow from this tree here coming across that van too. But what I want the van to pop. I'm kind of violating the rule of thirds a little bit here, but it's kind of a linear composition anyway. But the whiteness, when it's all said and done, this whiteness right in here is going to remain, and that's going to be the widest. Your eyes are just going to go to that, and hopefully.
Okay, Tim, I'm putting your website on the screen. Everybody needs to go there. What will they find there?
Everything I've got that I've ever done in my life, I think, is on there. So, and I've got a couple of galleries listed on there. One's down in Fort Davis, Texas, and then one here in Lubbock, and everything is either in the gallery or it's in my wife's spare bedroom in the house, and so everything's for sale. And so, whatever you want is there.
All right, terrific. Well, Tim, why don't you come back on camera? We're going to say goodbye because we got a meeting coming up. And all right, so
do this.
Okay, we're turning the camera around.
You know, did I do it right?
Well, yeah, you're right. Man, you are so good.
Well, thank you, Eric. Thank you. It's fun. That was great.
Tim, it was a pleasure having you on, and we'll you'll send me the image, or you can post it on the Facebook when you're done, and everybody can find it there. So thank you so much for being on today. Thumbs up and applause for Tim Oliver.
Thank you, Eric.
Really terrific. Thank you, Tim.